Right, I actually wanted to start off with a quote from Trumpet editor-in-chief Gerald Flurry. This is from a booklet that he wrote back in 2021, and he wrote, "The world is waking up to what a powerhouse China is becoming. Its economic maneuvers are vaulting it past the US as the world's greatest economy. Its military is developing and attaining conquests throughout Asia and beyond. Its leaders clearly have the ambition to rule this world." End quote. So that's Mr. Gerald Flurry. As I said there, it's actually the opening paragraph of his booklet called China's Dangerous Move Against America. And you can see that he really sounds the alarm there about the dark ambitions of the Chinese Communist Party. And I wanted to begin with that because the big story this week is just that those dark ambitions are on glaring display just about everywhere you look. So there was a new report in the Federalist that's all about China's unprecedented military buildup, which it says is clearly aimed at challenging America and its allies. This report is by Chuck DeVore, and he details the way China is expanding its nuclear and missile arsenals, and the way China already has the world's largest navy, if you go by number of ships. And in one part, he writes, quote, "Like Nazi Germany's buildup in the 1930s, the militarization program ordered by the Chinese Communist Party isn't simply a great power buildup. It's a weapon in service of a deadly ideology." End quote. So DeVore there is really getting to the heart of why China's military buildup is so worrying. And that is because Xi Jinping and the other leaders of the Chinese Communist Party, they want to use that rapidly expanding military might to impose their will on the whole world, really, the way that they're currently imposing it inside of China in extremely draconian and oppressive ways. You can look at the Tibetans in China, you can look at the Uyghurs, the Hong Kongers, even the Mongols. The Chinese Communist Party is using brute force to impose its will on all of these groups. And the Chinese Communist Party, of course, these are atheists. So in many cases, it is religious groups that they use force against, because to the Chinese Communist Party, there is no higher power in the universe than the Chinese Communist Party. And they want everyone to worship their party and the Chinese state as the highest power. And with the Chinese Communist Party's military power growing so quickly, they really aim to be able to impose their will that same way far beyond China's borders. And then in a related story, Xi Jinping rang in the new year saying no one will be able to stop China's planned annexation of Taiwan. He called it a reunification with Taiwan, but the Chinese Communist Party has never controlled that island. So it's inaccurate to call it a reunification. But whatever you want to call it, Xi Jinping remains hell-bent on conquering this sovereign, democratic nation, and he says that no one will be able to stop him when he decides that it's time to make his move. So a very chilling New Year's speech there from Chairman Xi. And we also saw China go beyond words this week with that major hack on the US Treasury Department. The Chinese hackers were able to use third-party software to override security measures and tap directly into the individual workstations of many Treasury Department employees. Now, we don't yet know what exactly they were able to access and what may come of this, but this is really only the latest in a non-stop campaign by the Chinese to hack every American system they can. And it's very worrying to think of the kinds of spying and blackmailing and coercion and just chaos that could result from these kinds of attacks. And then the last story that I wanted to mention, it may not sound as dramatic as, a military buildup or seizing Taiwan or cyber attacks, but it is another alarming area where we can see the Chinese Communist Party's dark ambitions on display, and that is with forced technology transfers that steal advanced manufacturing technology. So China's been doing this for years. They will let a given Western company come inside of China and set up shop and tap into all of their cheap labor and even sell to their market of 1+ billion people. But then what China does over and over again is it uses that business arrangement to steal the intellectual property of that foreign company. And then the Chinese do some clever reverse engineering, and they start making the same basic car or phone or whatever it may be, but now it's made by a Chinese company. And then the government steps in and subsidizes that Chinese company so that it can sell at a loss. And then the original manufacturers, the foreign companies, they can't compete with that, and they get driven out of business by it. So this has happened with far too many companies to name. And The Hill had a very powerful article about it this week, focusing specifically on all the foreign car companies that this has happened to, and just how much this theft has enriched the Chinese and how much it has really battered a lot of other nations. So it's a disturbing practice. It is theft. And it's just one more area where we can see that China's leaders clearly have the ambition to rule this world, and that there's little they won't do to achieve their dark objectives.
And this is something, I mean, you started with that quote from Trumpet Editor-in-Chief. I mean, even on that last point, this is what he said in a May 2000 Key of David program, clip 1.
China has tried ferociously to overtake the U.S. economy for years, and they've probably done so now. And also they have striven to overtake our modern science, and they've tried very hard to surpass us in that area as well, because science has a lot to do with the quality of your economy and how strong it is.
So, he had that Key of David talking about all these different ways that China's overtaking us. I mean, you brought about the way that they're cheating and stealing to do it. But in that same show, and he also brought out an important biblical truth. If you want to play clip 2, George.
Over the years, I think everybody knows that China and the U.S. have been clashing, and it's really not a good relationship. And I want to talk to you about that China-America clash and show you that that clash is prophesied specifically in your Bible. It is that important that God includes it in Bible prophecy. And it's strikingly clear.
So with that introduction, it's important, it's strikingly clear. What is the biblical perspective on what we see happening with China?
Yes, that is a powerful introduction there. And Mr. Flurry has also discussed this in the booklet that I mentioned at the start of this segment. It's called China's Dangerous Move Against America. In that, he discusses several different Bible prophecies that are relevant to this, just showing China growing more and more powerful and more belligerent and more anti-American, as we just heard in the clip there, just on this collision course with the U.S. One of the big passages that he focuses on is Isaiah 23. This shows China working with other nations to actually besiege the United States in the near future. And Mr. Flurry shows that that's basically how World War III will begin. So I think it's alarming enough to see the Chinese Communist Party's military buildup and its increasing aggression and its economic theft on their own. But when you add all of that to these prophecies showing what China plans to do very soon with all of that military might and economic might, then the picture is truly disturbing. So I hope that anyone who doesn't have a copy of it will order his booklet, China's Dangerous Move Against America, just to better understand those prophecies.
And we're offering a lot of little books today, not massive, thick tomes of demanding reading, which we definitely have those, and they're definitely worth digging into. But Character in Crisis, China's Most Dangerous Move Against America, these are pretty thin little books, easy to dip into, and you can go on our website, thetrumpet.com, and order those, or you can use the website to get in touch with us as well. you can shoot us email, trumpetworld@thetrumpet.com, if you have any difficulty in doing that. And you can read them online. We're also very happy to post you your own free print copy so that you can study it alongside your Bible and be able to close the lid on the laptop and do that without distractions and really dig into that. So before we give Simon his long-awaited chance on the Middle East, do you have any other Asian stories you wanted to go over with us today, Jeremiah?
Yes, yeah, just a couple of short ones. First up, a quick story about BRICS. This is the economic group of nations that is named after its first 5 members: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, BRICS. And BRICS is an anti-Western grouping. They detest the United States and they want to find ways to work against it and against the dollar specifically. And last year, they brought in 4 more members. Those were Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. And now this week, they took in 9 more countries. Now, this time, these are not full members. They're only observer partner countries. But nevertheless, the list of them is quite impressive. It is Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Thailand, Uganda, and Uzbekistan. Those are all now observer partners to BRICS as of this week. So it means BRICS is growing. And even though BRICS at present has little cohesion and no real mechanism for trade, much less any sort of military mechanism, we could see it grow more unified and relevant in the years ahead. And since it is so staunchly anti-American, that could have some serious implications for the US. So there's a lot to keep an eye on there. And then another quick story here about South Korea. A new First Post report says 73% of South Koreans now want their nation to build a nuclear arsenal. South Korea is a treaty ally to the United States, so it has always refrained from going nuclear since America is supposed to step in and help it if it's ever attacked. And since the US is supposed to keep South Korea safe under America's nuclear umbrella. But the South Koreans were utterly horrified to see America's shameful withdrawal from Afghanistan a couple of years back. They've also been terrified to see Ukraine, which America promised to defend, being brutalized and not assisted to a degree that allows it to stop the invasion. South Koreans are also worried about the return of President Trump. Mr. Trump has often bristled about the burden sharing agreement with South Korea during his first term. He renegotiated terms to make sure that the South Koreans were paying more, and he keeps on arguing that South Korea should still be paying more. So all of this hangs a large question mark over America's reliability and its commitment. And now this new report shows that 73% of South Koreans are saying, you know what, we don't really know what America will do. So let's build our own nuclear arsenal. That's the only way we can keep from being attacked by another nuclear-armed nation. So we could see another country join the nuclear weapons club very soon. Right now, that's a very exclusive club. Only 9 countries are in it, but South Korea could soon join. There are also whispers in Japan and Saudi Arabia about going nuclear. And of course, Iran is very close to the bomb as well. So the overall trend is alarming. And I think that it shows that the unthinkable may not be as far off as many of us would like to think.